Historical and Preservation Society, and I'm the chairperson of the Ceremony Committee. At this time, I would like to ask our color guard to come forward. They are made up of the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts of Troop 24 from Malverne. I would ask all of you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. George Wright.
Please join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. How's it going? What? Thanks. Good luck.
I would like to introduce Rabbi Chesler of the Malverne Jewish Center to deliver the invocation.
And our own lives into the future. You have taught us, O God, that a shame tov, a good name, is a person's greatest legacy, a monument to withstand the ravages of time. We invoke your name, therefore, as we dedicate this Malverne Historical Museum in the name of Joseph L. Landers, linking one good name to another. We recognize the generosity of his widow Jean and pray that this generosity will enable us not only to remember the good name of Joseph Landers, but also help us to remember and recall the history of our village so that our past, both personal and public, might teach us how to better live in the present, enjoying the blessings which you, our God, have given us. Amen.
Sir, could you just a half a step here?
Thank you, Rabbi Chesler. And now it's with great pleasure that I introduce Lucy Ballo, who will sing The House I Live In. Thank you, Lucy. And I would also like you to note that the accompaniment was by Steve Tice from the Malverne School of Music. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I would like you to meet the officers of the Malverne Historical Society. May I request that each member stand as their name is announced, and please hold your applause until the end. Dr. Keith Rosine, President. Ed Bruns, First Vice President. Agnes Young, Second Vice President. Agnes has a family function today and sends her regrets but her good wishes. Elaine Agatstein, Treasurer. Susan Wilcox, Corresponding Secretary. Bob Prowler, Historian. Gannon, photographer. Where are you? Vern Joseph Canzaneri. Trustee Gail Wakefield. And Trustee Tony Panzarella. We also have here today with us some former administration people. Former Mayor Hennessy. Former Mayor Lucacci. Stay possible. I understand we have with us some members of the Walls family. The Walls family were the inhabitants of this lovely home, which will now be ours. We'd like to acknowledge you. Christopher Walls, are you nearby? Martha Walls, she's the granddaughter. Karen Ruth Avery, granddaughter. Ryan Harry Avery, great-grandson. Nicholas Walls Jadali, great-grandson. Miles Walls Jadali, great-grandson. Glenn Jadali, great-grandson. We have John Walls, son, Bridget Rasso. The community are marking an historical moment in the history of Malverne. The dedication of our very own home, in which the history and the future of our great village will be preserved. The future is built on the past, and sometimes on that road we call the future, our strength is drawn from the past. And that is one of the great things this building will allow for. One place that will house our past and the vault of our strength for the future. Many individuals have given their time and talents to make this restoration possible. They are listed in your program. These individuals gave of themselves generously because they believed in the importance of this project, and to show their gratitude also to Mrs. Landers for this great gift. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce an individual who had a dream, who has done so much over the years to preserve the history of our village, and today is seeing that dream realized. I'd like to introduce to you our president, Dr. Keith Rossane.
A lot of people here. As president, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome everybody. This is really fantastic. We've come today to celebrate the opening of this building, the Joseph L. Landers Memorial Restoration. We're really going to have a lot of fun doing it today. I don't recall a project, at least in my lifetime, that's been so intensive and involved so many different people. We've had hundreds of residents, even some non-residents, and many community groups have come together to do this. And I firmly believe that the Malverne Historical and Preservation Society, in its endeavors, has broken down many barriers and crossed these barriers, political barriers, social barriers, age barriers. We've got all sorts of different people involved to come together to do this. And it's really brought this community together, and I hope it stays this way for a long time. But how did we get here today? You know, we were talking about history, so we have to have a little bit of a historical perspective. 10 years ago, and almost 10 years to just about this time, which is quite amazing, is we started the Malverne Historical and Preservation Society. I got together with a couple of people in my home. It was just really an ad hoc committee at that point. We said, why don't we get together? We have no society, we have no museum. We could look around Valley Stream and Rockwell Center and many other, West Hempstead, Franklin Square. We all had societies, they had places to display memorabilia. So why don't we get together and start an historical society? And people said to me, and they've always asked me, well, did you always love history? Was this something you always wanted to do? And the answer is no. I didn't really think much about history. In college, I took one history course, Western Civilization. It was a 5-credit course. I failed that course. and I wasn't really sure, and I started to think about, well, why did I really want to get involved in the history of Malverne? I grew up in Oceanside. Roz and I moved here in 1971. The only thing I knew about Malverne at that point was that there was a movie theater, and as a high school kid, I remember there were 6 movies there. There were these foreign films that they showed in Malverne. No other theaters had them around at that time. That's all I knew about Malverne. But I got here and found it to be a fascinating community. And I think really that it turned out to be my love of people that I met here that got me involved in the history. It's like backbuilding into the history. I met people like Henry Fellensteiner. I was at a Memorial Day parade one day, and all the veterans are dressed up in their uniforms, and I see this sightly gentleman. He's dressed in a uniform I had never seen before. Didn't look like a United States uniform. I went up to him and introduced myself, and I said, "Who are you? What kind of uniform is this?" He said, "My name is Henry Fellensteiner, and this is my uniform from Prussia. In World War I actually fought against the Allies. I fought with Prussia." And he went on and he told me the story that he was the gardener, the personal gardener of Kaiser Wilhelm. And he tells me a story how he's walking in the gardens with the Kaiser when World War I broke out, how the Kaiser was saying he was duped by the generals, they said the Serbs crossed the border and it really didn't happen. And this was living history. Here's somebody from Malverne telling me that World War I actually got started. He was a fascinating personality. He met people like Frank Drayton Wenzel, who was a former vaudevillian, who was a former mayor of Malverne. Frank told me one day that he was the first person, I don't know how many of you know this, but Frank was the first person to play Irving Berlin's Ragtime after he wrote it. They happened to be in the same building together, and Irving came running in with the script that he had just written and said to Frank, had a band, let's go ahead and let's play this. He was the first person. He got to tell me a lot about the vaudevillians here in Malverne. I met Kay Wicks Begenzi, a lovely lady who died this past year. She grew up, she told me all about the farms in Malverne, with pictures of her as a 3-year-old riding on a horse and plow in Malverne. At the time, she was in probably early 70s, and she was telling me how she was skinny dipping out in Pond here, where the high school was built. And hearing this, and meeting these types of people really got me involved in history. And we got together, we got a group, and then we really started with the AgCat committee, but the official first meeting, or first meeting of our group was in August of 1986, just a little bit less than 10 years ago. Let me just check the right date so I won't get them wrong. In August of 86 we started, and the first meeting was held on October 27th, 1986. And we actually got our state provisional charter on January 21st, 1987. Now, the Historical Society has really gone through 3 stages. The first stage one I call like the paperwork stage. We had to fill out all the paperwork. We had to apply for provisional charters. It was intensive. It was not fun. It was heavy-duty work, but it had to be done to get the thing off, so we had a good infrastructure to the society. The second stage were the programs. And that went on for the next 6 or 7 years. And we've had some wonderful, wonderful programs. We've had programs, we've had history of the fire department, the police department, antique postcards, some of the great programs. We did a live call-in show. We did 2 of them on Channel 40. People called in, we had Malverne trivia, people called in answers. We opened up a container we had found that belonged to the Ackley family. It was sealed for 50 years. We opened it up live on television. We didn't know what we were going to find. It was a little disappointing because it was just some old bills from the farm and whatnot, but the anticipation was greater than the actual event. My favorite programs of all of them were the programs that involved people from Malverne. We had 4 World War II programs. Just this past year, we had one of our World War II programs. We had 3 gentlemen on the program. One had been captured and was put in a German prison camp during the war. He lives in Malverne now. Another had been in a Nazi concentration camp. His neighbor, who they lived next to each other for 30 years, and they didn't know each other to begin with, actually helped liberate some of the camps. And we heard true living history from these people. It was a very, very emotional program. And we've heard this, not all been quite as emotional, but they've been really living history. People have lived through different parts of what we read about in books. Incidentally, most of those programs are on videotape. They've been shown on Channel 40. We have them here. We have a TV inside when you take a look later on, and you're welcome to take a look at these programs anytime you come back. The third part of our history, the third stage, was what I called the applying for the permanent charter in our museum stage, trying to get a facility to house, to display the memorabilia that we had collected. Now, 2 years ago, we started a museum fund committee. John Guarino was right here, volunteered at that point to head the committee. We didn't have a building in mind. We didn't have anything in mind. We just knew that someday, maybe 10 years, 15 years down the line, we wanted to have something that the community could be proud of that would house this memorabilia. I don't think John and Vinny's wife expected to see a building in their lifetime. But we had to start somewhere. We had to start collecting money. When he volunteered, we agreed at that point that we would dedicate the opening of the museum someday to their son, John Guarino Jr., who had died in 1993. John had been the Malverne Village historian in 1987 through 1991. John Jr. had been president-elect of our own society in 1993, 1994, died just before he was ready to take office. And at that point we said, someday we're going to have a building, we're going to have a house, and we'd like to dedicate the opening that day. And today a room will be dedicated to John Jr. as part of the ceremonies and as a tribute to him in the opening of the museum restoration. Last summer, as part of the 75th anniversary of the village, we decided to dedicate all of our activities, society's activities, to raising money for our museum fund. And actually it was kicked off by the Malverne PBA. Last summer the Civic Association sponsored their first annual softball tournament, and many of the local groups participated. And the PBA won, and they were sponsoring the surplus fund, which was our first major donation, which was $600. Up to that point, I think we collected less than $100 for our committee. During the year, we slated 2 or 3 major projects for raising money for a building. We didn't have a building in mind at that point. We knew someday we would have one. We had our 70th anniversary commemorative journal. Those of you who have seen it, we have them for sale today, of course. $15 a piece, a little commercial break. And it turned out wonderful. Helen Driscoll led runs, and their entire committee did a fantastic job. 188 pages of the history of Malverne. Pat Cooper committee came up with t-shirts and pillows for the 75th anniversary. A tremendous picture of the gazebo. We have them inside and take a look. They're wonderful, wonderful gifts. And then we had a historical cookbook. Now, Lorraine's back here. Just raise your hand again. When Lorraine came to me and said, we think we should have a cookbook, I said, well, I'm not quite sure. I think the moms have done one, some other groups have done one, and maybe cookbooks are sort of played out at this point. She said, no, we really need one. It would be historic, it would be nice. I don't know if you've seen it yet. They're new. We have them today. It's the finest cookbook that I've ever seen. In terms of its content, in terms of the recipe, in terms of the layout, the historical pictures. There's a picture of the restoration on the cookbook. It's something that you just need to have. It was a great job, and a job well done, right? Kids today, I think they're away. They had something planned. Peg is my favorite person for arranging programs. Over the years, a lot of these programs I mentioned before, Peg would call me at least 5 times a year and say, here's a list I saw, I heard, I read. Contact these people, maybe they'll give a good program. And it was great because most of the time it worked out, and we got some tremendous programs as a result of her research. Well, she calls me early last fall and says, Keith, I don't know what it is, but I was reading Newsday, and there was a little article, and it said there's a 116-year-old farmhouse in Malverne for sale. There's no name on it, there's no real estate agent on it. Maybe, just maybe, it's something we can look into. I said, okay, I'll call. I didn't know who I was calling. It wasn't a Malverne number I called. And I got this young lady over there, Colette Willis Ward, and just raised her hand over there. And she tells me that she grew up in this house, and she lives out in Port Jefferson, and she's so busy opening up all these party stores, a chain of party stores. And as a matter of fact, she'll be there Friday because she has the house pretty much sold. The lowest bid was $140,000. There's an attorney. He has a verbal agreement. In fact, he'll have his engineer there on Friday, and that's it. I said, well, do you mind if I come take a look? No, that's okay. I said, make a wonderful museum, but I went there sort of with mixed feelings because basically it had been promised to somebody else at this point, and also we had no money, so it really didn't make any difference. So we go. I asked my wife, Roz, I don't know where she is in the back there, I asked her to come along because I highly value her opinion, and of course she's an architect, and what better can you bring to look at a house than an architect? And while I'm on it, I'm doing a lot of thank yous today, and I'd like to thank Roz for a number of different things. During this whole refurbishing and working on a house, I've utilized and overutilized her office, making copies. Told people, don't worry, drop it at Roz's office. You need a fax, don't worry, go to Roz's office. I volunteered her office a lot, and I think she's really happy because I've had boxes in our living room, had a garage filled with historical material, I've had rooms and closets, and I thank her for being so patient, and now she's real happy that we're getting moved into this facility at this point. So thank you. Colette and I had a discussion after we saw the house, and it was true, the engineer was there that day. And I said, Colette, look, is there any way we can work this out? And she said she'll speak to this fellow, who happened to be an attorney with people who had done a verbal contract, and said, see what can work out. She really would have loved to have it come to the Historical Society. Something would be a legacy for her family. She grew up in the house, and it was something she wanted to work on. And what we finally worked out was that if we, the Historical Society, could come up with $40,000, in a matter of a week or two. Put it down as a down payment. She would take a 5-year mortgage, because as a society we couldn't just go out and take a mortgage. And we thought that would be a push, but I said, all right, we'll try to do it. And I spoke to a couple of people. I said, can we do this? We raised $40,000, and most people said it couldn't be done. I don't know if I was smart enough to know that it could be done or dumb enough to know that it couldn't. But I went, and for 2 days, I made calls to just about everybody who knew in Malverne. And what I was suggesting to them, I was saying, could you give me an interest-free loan, not a donation, an interest-free loan for a year to raise $40,000 so we can put a down payment on an historical house. At the end of the year, we'll give it back. Worst case scenario, we can't pay it back at the end of the year. We sell the house, which we took a shot at. That was my feeling. And a lot of people came forward. I want to read this list now. These are people who had only given the dollar amounts, but they loaned us interest-free for 1 year, so we were able to close the deal. This was done within a 2-day period. Ed Bruns, Elaine Agenstein, Jean Landers, John Russo, Richard Freund, Rufus Cornwell, Joseph Hennessy, Adelaide and Ed Flaherty, Dr. Michael DeMarco, George Wright, Vincent Gevia, Harry and Agnes Young, Lou Fornsler, Phil Stein, and then we also got actually donations from the Mayor's Golf Outing Committee from this year and the Malverne Civic Association. And in 2 days we were able to assemble $40,000 so I could call Colette and say, yes, we will buy this house. Could you personally thank everybody? I know you're doing it for me as well as the society. Now, after we made this decision, we had to go ahead and we had to do a lot of paperwork. Now, I could thank a few people that were very instrumental in getting this done. Richard Gumo, back here. Richard Gumo became our attorney for this project. You have to understand, we had to write up notes for all of these people who were lending us the money. It would be notarized and signed. You had to collect the checks. We had to go to closing. You had to contact all the different attorneys on the other side, different functions going on. She has to have different records for the journals, for the cookbooks, for all things going on. We have grant money, has to be kept separate from the regular money. We have bricks that we're selling. We have so many different funds. She goes to the post office every day. She makes the deposits every day. She doesn't give up money very easy. She pays her bills, but she doesn't give up money very easy. The day we closed and she had a hand collect $140,000 check, it was like this, you know, like, do I really have to do this? But besides that, she's been doing just about everything else. She's come to the house and she's taken care of Kathy's kids while she's been working here. She's picked stuff up for us. She's really made life easier for us, and we really appreciate that. I mean, thank you. Taking so much extra time today, but these thank yous are necessary, and we'll try to keep this down to not more than another 10 minutes. Bracher, who did the rendering of the house, if you'll notice everything we've done, we had a fundraising dinner back in January. I want to talk about this. You got to come here. I can't say this over the phone. I hang up the phone or something. Oh no, she's taking her money back that she lent us. We're never going to find another person to get money from. That was what through my mind, believe me. I said, I just thought, I can't believe this is happening. I get to it the next day or two. It was one of those, we had bad winter with all that snow. It was one of those days right after we must have had a foot of snow. I'm driving through the snow. I'm coming down Cornwall Avenue. I make a right onto her turn, Wolf, and my car stops. It just stops, doesn't go another inch. I didn't know at that point the axle had broken my car. It was at the corner. I walked the next 2 blocks through the snow, feeling miserable that she's going to tell me she's taking back her money. My car is now broken. I go to her house. She sits me down. She says, Keith, how's it going with the fundraiser? I said, well, it's going to be a push. We got to raise an awful lot of money for the next 5 years to be able to keep this, because we're going to have to pay mortgage back, pay people back, do renovation in the house. She says to me, well, I'll tell you what. If you could see fit to name the building after my husband Joe, who just passed away that year, I'd like to give you $140,000. Now, as I literally was sliding out of the chair onto the floor, literally, I said, Gene, that's very generous. I said, but I can't make that decision. I got to pull the board together. In my mind, I made the decision. So I called an emergency meeting. That night, the board met, the board voted on it. We said, fine, this is great. We said, we're going to do it. We spoke to Gene, and we just went ahead. And before I call up the next person who would like to thank and have her thank her committee, we're going to take a little commercial break. I want to make a couple of announcements, and then we'll call Kathy Rayano up. But a couple of announcements is when you go inside after our ceremonies today, we rush like crazy to get something up on the wall so you can see something. Many of the photos and exhibits do not have captions yet. Many of them do not have the credits for the people who donated. Please be patient with them next month. We'll make that a top priority. We'll make sure that everybody gets credit for what they've donated. We'll get captions on all the pictures, but you have to understand what it took just to get... Okay. Now, I'd like Kathy Rayano just to come up beside me, if you don't mind. Now, after we closed on February 23rd, I said, okay, who am I going to get to help refurbish this? I can't coordinate. I'm doing so many things at this point. So I thought, geez, I'd like to get Kathy Rayano. You know how, if you read about a lot in the papers now, the basketball teams are out looking for the coaches. They know who they want. Well, this is who I wanted, but I didn't know if I could get her. All right? And I knew she'd be very capable. I know I've watched what she's done in the community, and I really wanted to get Kathy. When I called her up, I said, Kathy, you know, I have this little project for you. We need to have this museum refurbished. You have about 2.5 to 3 months to take this building and totally renovate it. And I expected her to say no. I expected Kathy to say, well, Keith, you know, I'd like to, but you see, I'm president of the Civic Association. Do you realize what it takes to be president of the association and of any association, and a tremendous amount of pressure and work? So I expected no, she'd say no, but she turned around without hesitation and said, I'd love to do this. And that's how we got started. Now, that's only how we got started. This has become an obsession. It's become, I don't know what. Kathy has turned into a general contractor. She's had, you can't imagine, she's had electricians here, she's had plumbers, she's gone out, she's had gloves on and picked up things in vans. She's had painting contractors, she's done painting herself, she's done about everything that she could do in this house herself at some point. See, for the first 2.5 out of 3 months, a lot of people were coming down and helping. Towards the end, it dropped off a little bit, but things had to get finished. She came in, did it herself. She began to feel like she lived here. I think her kids were playing in the backyard, front yards. They're going to miss this house, I think, more than she is at this point. But this house would not be open today. It wasn't for Kathy. You have to understand that. There were lots of people that pitched in. She's going to talk about her community in a few minutes. But it would not be open. People have come up to me. I've been in here a lot the last week because I've been putting up displays. And people have been coming up congratulating me and saying, hey, you did a wonderful job. Bottom line, I didn't do this house. Kathy Rayano and her committee did this house. I just put up pictures on the wall. Okay, and I think we really went all the way. You know, duty makes us do things well, but love makes us do them beautifully. And I think she really loves this house. She loves the project. We have a couple of things for you, okay? First, I found a paint chart that we won't go with. You notice I put P1 and P2 and P3, so I always said I love this new gray wall. She said, that's nice, it's blue. So, you know, it's a little color line. That's a paint chart for you. We also have, someone told me that Kathy likes flowers. We have a nice bunch of flowers. Last of all, before we let her announce her committee, she was real nervous last night thinking about it. She dreamed about that. She came back late last night. A couple of times she said, she apologized. She couldn't come in a particular day. She said, I'm sorry, I just can't get it. I said, Kathy, it's okay. Last night she was done. I'm done. I'm not going to see you tomorrow. She was back last night. I got here at 8:30 this morning. She already come clean and swept away this morning. Make sure everything is ready. This has really been an obsession. Your heart has been in this house. There's no question about it. And because of that, we can get this open. We have a little heart for you, and from everybody, thank you all so very much. She has to get her notes, but she uses it herself.
Thank you very much. I have to get my notes. I can't possibly remember. And that was a big surprise, Keith, but I have a surprise for you, too. Even though the building was our job and the renovation was a big deal, all the things that you're going to see, all the memorabilia that we have, again, is one person. Keith literally ran around. Keith has been collecting these things for 10 years. and we would have a beautiful empty building that told no story at all if it wasn't for Keith. So I have a presentation from the Historical Society to you, Keith, so you have to come back. And it reads, in honor of Keith Rosine, founder of the Malverne Historical and Preservation Society, keeper of Malverne memories, president and tireless champion of Malverne's past, present, and future, presented with pride. And everything you're going to see inside Keith is responsible for. Isn't it very long? But in the 3 months that we've been here and we've been working, I believe that we've made history. This was truly a labor of love on behalf of all those who worked so very hard, and I can't tell you how I'm just so tired. How hard people worked to make this a reality. And I have to introduce to you my committee and tell you about what the first person I want to thank is Joe Karen. Is Joe here? Joe Karen, where are you? Stand up. Anytime I needed anything that I couldn't get anybody else to do, Joe would do for me. I have to say thank you. I want to thank your mother too, Ann Karen, who came and just did anything that you wanted her to do. She would come, she would clean. I want to thank Peggy Hannon, who she's a nut, but she's a wonderful painter, and she has so much enthusiasm, and she made me laugh when I was so miserable. Stephen before, my neighbor across the street, who was afraid to come out of his house because I might ask him to do something else. And he used to stick his head out the door and look and see if I was gone before he came out the door. Harry Young, who, together with his wife Agnes, are at their granddaughter's ballet recital, but they really should be here because they've done so much to help too. And Dave Peterson, who is celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary, but kind of told me that he wished he could be here as well. Glenn Jacobson, who did the impossible with a sign that you're going to see inside, that's one of our really crowning glories in the museum, and nobody else wanted to do it, and nobody would have done it for me. Glenn, I want you to know Walter would be really proud of you. I also want to thank Keith because he was always there. Whenever I had a question, he'd always say the right answer. You do what you want to do. I have to thank Vince Gebbia. I haven't figured out what he did, but he did something. I want to thank Greg Bracher, who was my encyclopedia of home repair. And every time I had a question, I would call Greg, and Greg would tell me exactly what to do. I want to thank Roz, who was my sounding board, and the only one whose opinion I really listened to. If Roz liked it and Roz said it was good, then it was okay. I want to thank Christine Ambrose, who is our interior designer on the project. And Christine did all the research as for the colors, the paint chart, and everything that you see. That was all Christine's work because we didn't know how to make it historically correct. It wasn't just a question of painting it to make it look pretty. It had to bring out the best of the architecture of the building, but it had to be authentic. And Christine, could you just let everybody know? Christine did that for me. I want to thank Joe Engelke, who I think I drove his truck more than he did for the last one. Then there were a lot of people who came that weren't on the committee and helped out, and anytime I needed anything, I have to say, I would call people and say, can you do me a favor? And every single person that I asked, they didn't ask what the favor was. Right away they said yes. And that tells you a lot about the people who live here. There were so many of them, and you have to bear with me because it seems like I'm reading the name of every single person in Malverne, and I think almost every single person in Malverne did help in some way. I want to thank Mike Golday from Mr. Chimney, who relined all our chimneys and did so much work for us, and really didn't take hardly any money at all. I have to thank the entire St. John family. The St. John family were our electricians. They put in our alarms. They were here most of the entire time of 3 months. They did so much work. And then every day I would call them in and I would say, okay, I want you to do this. And then 2 days later, we would get a donation and something would be different and the plans would change and I'd bring them back and I'd change everything. And they never complained. They had to do the work and they had to put up with me too. And they were wonderful and they're just hometown boys and you should be very proud of them. I think their dad is here. Is Nick St. John here? Nick, you stand up because your family is so much to me. I want to thank Elliot and Fran Levine. I had never met the Levines, and they came literally out of nowhere. And Elliot Levine donated all the paint. He gave us the labor to paint the great room inside, which we would have never been able to do. And he didn't want anything. He didn't want a tax write-off. He didn't want anything. He just wanted to do the right thing because he said, of all the years he's lived here, it's time for him to give back. And he gave back in a big way. And his wife Fran came down and she painted with us. She's an antique dealer. She gave me a lot of advice and taught me a lot of things that I didn't know and I wouldn't have been able to figure out for myself. Are either Elliot or Fran here? I didn't think they could make it, but they're wonderful people and it was a pleasure to meet them. I want to thank Vinny and Tommy Antonetti. Vinny Antonetti is the kind of person that you ask Vinny to do something, you turn around, you blink, and it's done. Is Vinny here? Okay. Agnes Young. My friend Bill Warner, I'm doing all home craft. He's not even my neighbor anymore. He moved away, but he still comes back when I ask him to do things. And he came here and he did all the work that we needed for nothing. Les Bracher, BM Carpet. I want to thank Lorraine Bracher for taking over the job of the ceremony today because when I called Lorraine and I said, I need you to help me, she said, whatever it is. And Lorraine, I think you did a beautiful job today. I want to thank the Milliken Corporation for the donation of carpet that we received. I want to thank John Aresta for coming down and helping me, Glenn Jacobson, Albert Isaacson, Helen Driscoll, Irene and Renee Leverlands, Scott Padula, Fred and Marion Engelhardt, Joanne and Dennis Scully. Dennis is the owner of D. Scully's Plumbing, and he's another person who's a real sweetheart, and I needed his help a lot of times too, and he was there for me. I want to thank Vito, because everybody always forgets to thank Vito, so where's Vito? I want to thank Bob Crowley for being around and doing all Bob would say, well, what can I do? Do you really want me to do that? All right, I'll do that. But he did it, so that's important. For Joe Hennessy and his high wire ash, that's a private show consumes on that. I want to thank Tony Contardo, who is he bought an old house and it was full of all kinds of goodies and he gave me the key and he said, you can go in there and take anything you want and it's yours. And he didn't ask for a thing in return. And I don't think he's here, but he's a wonderful guy. Sonia Levy, Ron and Mary Michelli, 5-Star Lumber, Rich Rotica, who came down and painted moldings that were put on sawhorses because he has a broken foot and he couldn't stand, but he wanted to be able to help us. Doug and Bruce Clark from the Malverne Garden Center, who gave me anything I wanted and delivered things and just anything I wanted. It was okay, and they did it for me. The Nick Cimino Floor Company, who restored the floors inside to a beauty that you're not going to believe. They worked on it day and night for 3 days, and it shows. Bob and Nina Kenny, Anthony Gillison's son, Kim Sinrod of Sinrod Stained Glass, who helped restore a beautiful piece of glass that you can see inside. Grossman's Farm. I want to thank Joe Billy, who planted almost every single flower that you see around the front. And they're back and all, he did it. I want to thank Pete Sumanello, who came to us in the 11th hour when we didn't have any way of getting the carpet runner down the stairs, and he helped out. I want to thank George Wright for coming down, and it's so fitting in Malverne history that we had one tree planted here, and it was planted by George Wright. I want to thank Ed Bruns for just being Ed Bruns, and Elaine Agostine for babysitting for my kids, taking them to lunch. David and Janine Levinson, Kathy DeBenzi, the Postmaster Larry Lehman for supplying us with all our antique postal memorabilia that you'll see when you go inside. I want to thank Fran and John Cohen for their generous donation, and Rita Duca, whose idea it was to do the memorial garden in the front and who helped make that a reality. The Sugarman family, who hasn't been in Malverne in more than 2 months. And when they read about what we were doing in the paper, they called me and they wanted to contribute and they wanted to help. And it was so nice to see people that don't have a connection to the community that desperately want to be a part of it. Dave Weinstein and the Malverne Fire Department. When I called Neil for something, he also said, I said, Neil, I need a favor, and he also said yes before he even knew what the favor was, and that's very dangerous. Don't do that in there. I want to thank Dee Lamb, who would come by on her morning walks. I'm sorry. I say, I wish I could help you, but I can't really, I can't really do this kind of stuff, but can I make you a sandwich? Can I bring you something? I just appreciate you coming by. Thank you. I haven't slept in a week. I'm sorry. I want to thank Jean Finicoli for the beautiful curtains that she made. I want to thank Mike Cunningham for coming and just lifting all these crazy things. I just said, just take it up the stairs. I don't know how to get it up there. Just do it. And I want to thank my kids who didn't want to come today because they're sick of being here, but they've been here for the last 3 months and they really deserve, a special medal of their own. And I want to thank all of those people, and they deserve a big, big applaause. Because without them, we wouldn't have been able to create this fitting memorial to Joe Landers. And I want to thank you, Jean, for all your generosity and your love of the community. Jean could have done any number of things with the money that she gave us. She could have went on a trip, she could have bought herself a new car, she could have done anything, but she didn't. She chose to do this. She chose to create something wonderful for the community of Malverne. And it's something that will last for generations. And I can't think of a better tribute to Joe. And I'm sure he'd be really proud of you, and somehow I know he is. I have another special presentation, something that you don't know about, Jean, and something your family doesn't know about. You'll notice on the program that this is the name of Mrs. Beard. Knows her now. She's a resident portrait artist. She's a talented, gifted, and generous woman. And she wanted to do something special. And she can't be here today because she's at an art show. She painted a portrait of Joe that will hang over the fireplace in a place of honor forever. And those of you who knew Joe, take one look at that picture and it's like he's come back. When I was here working late at night, like I said, I'm delirious because I haven't slept. I would walk past the picture and go, Joe, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go home because I really felt like I was talking to him. And Mrs. Jacobson did that, and that's her donation and her gift not only to the museum but to the Landers family. And it will be in a place of honor right over the fireplace. So I'm sorry if I took too long. And I really needed to thank all these people because these are the men and women that help make today a reality. And as individuals, as men and women, we merely pass through history. It's the way we choose to live our lives, what we give of ourselves, and what we do, and what we leave behind. It shows how history will remember us. The fruit of our labor, what we create, and what we leave for others, that is history. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of it. It was my pleasure, an honor, and privilege to head up this project. Thank you.
Kathy, I know you apologize for speaking too long, but guess what? During that time period, I sold 2 cookbooks, so it was well worth it.
You think he's smiling? Look at the weather. In trying to put together in a few words what I think Joe represented as a friend and as a resident of the village of Malverne, I want to point out one thing right off the bat. The drapes, the blue drapes that hang in the mayor's office and in the boardroom in our village, that material was donated by Joe Landers. When he heard that we needed that type of thing, he just said, tell me the color, and he brought in the material and left it. No recognition needed, he just took care of the job. Joe and I used to play golf once in a while. And for anybody that's played with me, you know that's quite a challenge. And many times he's offered to buy me a snorkel so I can get my balls out of the water. Joe, on the last time we played golf at Hop Hog, we were riding along, And he said to me, do you mind if we stop for a couple of minutes? I want to ask you advice about something. I knew Joe was a businessman. I knew Joe was a resident. I knew Joe was an individual who was concerned about people. I knew Joe was in the service, but I had no idea the accomplishments he had when he was in the service. Neither did I have any idea what a wonderful and large business he had started from nothing. He said, you know, Joe, the trips to the Philippines, the factory, they're getting longer and longer every year. And Jean really wants me to stop making them. And she's kind of putting the pressure on that only a wife can put on. She's concerned about my health. And I said, well, maybe it's time. But what about all the people that worked for me there? When you reach a certain age in the Philippines, and if the company that you're working for goes out of business, the odds are you'll never get another job. I can't do that to them. How do I solve the problem? And I didn't have any magic answer to that question. But the thing I did say to him was, what would happen, Joe, when God decides it's time for you to go? And that's how it ended, when God decided, not Joe. But he cared about the people that worked for him. He didn't care that the trips were getting longer. He didn't care that it was taking him more and more time to recover from those trips. He just cared about the people that worked for him. Joe Landers, without question in my mind, has got to be up with the good people. And he's looking down today, Gene, and he's saying, you did good. And thank you. Because in this house that's dedicated to his memory are many things that relate to the war. The veterans of the war, our American Legion, have donated a considerable amount of memorabilia. And when you see the tape that's being played in John Gorlino's room, you will see a clip when Joe spoke at the 50th anniversary the Civic was running the various shows with members of the community describing their experiences in World War II. When you look at Joe describe his experiences, and you see the passion and the concern, even to that day, the people that he flew with and the people that are no longer here, you will understand what I meant when Joe said, what about the people that are going to lose their jobs? It was my honor, it was my pleasure, it was my privilege to know Joe. And it's as equally my honor, my privilege, and my pleasure to know Gene and her family. Thank you for this gift. Gene? We would like you to have this for home, so that you will have a constant reminder of the generous gift that you gave us. I'll bring it over to you in a moment. Gene, the artist himself, is donating the original rendering to the museum to be hung where Kathy decides it should be hung. That's something we've all learned. We'll put his name on it if it is, and I think it is. Okay? And if one other thing, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you don't think I'm out of line, I think we all really want to do it, but we just haven't done it yet. For Kathy Rayano, for Dr. Rosine, for the Gorinos, for the Landers family, for all of the volunteers that made this such a wonderful house to our community, what do you say we give them a standing ovation? Thank you.
Thank you, time for us to introduce the lady who made this all possible, Mrs. Jean Landers.
My daughter's holding up a note. She says, "Oh, I'm nervous. If you think of your audience as all being naked and you're the only one dressed, you're going to be, you'll be all right." I just want to tell you that when Keith called me up way back in November, and he told me about this house that was 116 years old. I was thinking, 116? That's our anchor, so it must mean something. And he told me all about it, and I said, "Keith, what are you looking for?" And he said, $2,000. And I said, "Okay." And then he called one day to say that they were going to come to look at the house. First, I wasn't sure if I was going to go, but then I figured I'd like to see who else was making contributions, and I'd like to see what the house looked like. So I was standing outside. It was a cold day. Bob Prowler was there. We were waiting for Keith to come with the keys, and we were talking. And Bob was saying, it's wonderful, but he thinks it's more than we can handle. And maybe we ought to have a room in the library or something. And I was saying, well, I don't know how many dinners we can have at $85 a plate. I mean, you can do it once, but how many times can you do that? Ask people to pay that much to go to a dinner to raise money. But everything worked out. I don't know. Sometimes I think Joe was talking to me. All of a sudden I get an inspiration, and I thought this is what he would like. So I called Keith up on the phone and told him to come over. And I told him I could give him the check in the middle of February. So I don't know if he realized it, but it was Valentine's Day when I gave it to him. And the rest is history. You know what happened. Everything I was going to say, Kathy said and Keith said, and I still can't get over it, that the couple of times I was in the house, you know, maybe it's my age or maybe it's just me. I either know your face or your name, but I don't put the two together. I mean, well, they don't go together. It's one or the other. Joan Prowler came over to me, and I said, "Oh, you're from the library," but I didn't know her name. And we were in the house Friday, and there was a cleaning woman doing the floors. And afterwards I asked, "Who is it? Who's doing the floors?" And then they say, "That's Ann Carroll." And she looks so familiar. Why does she look familiar? Because she's an officer with the Astoria Federal. And I thanked me. But I mean, these are the people. You see Joe Hennessy with a paintbrush. You see Kathy with a paintbrush. Her 5-year-old daughter, or her daughter's going to be 5, was outside with a with a rag and water cleaning the cabinet. Everybody was working. Greg, who I understand is very shy and never does anything, Greg Frazier, he was here hammering with his, fixing the stairs and everything. And I don't know, it seems like everything was a labor of love. I wouldn't say it was necessarily for Joe. Not everybody knew Joe. But I think it's a labor of love for Malverne, the town you live in. And this is like a house of love. And I really feel that... stop that. Stop that. I feel that... you make me all confused with that stupid thing. Well, anyway, I feel that Joe is here with us, and he's glad. Everything's been wonderful, that's all. Well, he's holding up a sign that he used to call it the Hysterical Society. She wanted to say it. But thank you all for, it's been wonderful. It really is a house of love, and a labor of love that everybody did.
Thank you, Jean. And I want you to know, Jean is a woman of few words, and it really took a lot of courage for her to come up before you. But she felt so strongly so very strongly that she wanted you to get that message out. At this time, I would like to ask Reverend John Hill of St. James United Methodist Church to give this beautiful home a benediction.
If you're sitting and would like to stand, why don't you do so? Let's be in prayer. The Lord our God, you're the Lord of history. We thank you, Lord, for all that's been done and all that will be done. We thank you, Lord, that our history has merged with the history of Joseph and Jean Landers and all the names shared this day. Lord, this is an age of need. An age of need first. And you have called men of the faith down through the centuries to give of themselves and not expect anything back. Lord, you have seen that happen here, our God, and are seeing it happen. We ask that you would bless this house, all those who have worked on it, will work on it, and will continue to help us to know the history of this village, this Malverne, this house I live in, this home. We may go forth from this day feeling your blessing, always remembering every time we look at that picture of Joe, think of him and Jean and Kathy and all the rest, that we should do the same. The Lord of history, continue us on the journey of history with this house as a focal point. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Hill. And at this time, we're going to have Lucy Bellows sing Bless This House.
Okay, Vinny, now we can give you the survey.
All right? There you go. You can notice,
When you're ready.
okay.
My beloved son.
Let's do it again. Good.
Come here, I want to show you something. Hi, I'm two of you. Come here.